How do you prepare somebody to survive that initial stage of boredom and pain?
Well, pain is great. You've got to embrace pain. Pain is pleasure. You've got to make the connection between the physical and the mental. When you work out, it's painful. I do long distance swimming is like my main workout. I also do other things, but that's my main workout. I'm on like mile 1 and I'm like, oh man, this is fun. I'm so bored and I'm really gonna collapse. But when I'm finished, I am like, oh man, I've got so much energy and it feels so good and I pushed past it. Well, you know that when you're exercising, when you're running or you're working out or whatever, it hurts, but it leads to something pleasurable. You have to be able to translate that to mental things. And if you make that switch in your mind, it is mind-blowing what can happen to you. If the boredom of learning something technical, and you're able to say to yourself, wow, I'm gonna master this bit of coding after a few months, and just think of what it's gonna allow me to do. Okay, so the boredom now is actually not so bad, because I can imagine the powers that it's gonna lead to. I'm not gonna skip the steps, I'm still gonna learn, but I'm thinking of all of that post-workout feeling I'm gonna have. You've gotta be able to understand, embrace pain. Pain is something to embrace. If there's no resistance to you, you're not gonna get anywhere in life. Who are the most messed up people in the world? Spoiled kids. Kids who are given everything, who have a rich father or mother and they don't have to work or try. They are the most messed up people you'll ever meet.
All right, you're writing a book on human nature. Why is that true?
Because they have no limits, they have no resistance. They don't have to push against anything. They don't have to go like that to get somewhere.
Does that atrophy something in the brain, do you think?
Well, it's one of the laws of human nature. One of the laws is about what I call necessity. We are animals of necessity. When we have to discover or build something, we build it if our life is on the line. That's how we're genetically primed from several million years ago. And when there's no necessity, when we don't have to do something, we just lie around and watch television and smoke pot.
Because often in life, we know what to do, but we don't do what we know. And another way that's been said is common sense isn't always common practice. And sometimes our intuition is screaming at us, but the demands of the day, the distractions in life are pulling our mind in a million different directions. And our psychology, our brains, our intuition is so drained that sometimes that noise makes it really hard for us to listen to our own hearts. There was this scene in this movie, Shawshank Redemption. And it's very symbolistic in a lot of ways, a lot of metaphors into the scene. And it's shortly after Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins' character, escapes out of prison. And he literally climbs through a river of shit to come out to freedom on the other side. Listening to Morgan Freeman's character, Red, talk about how much he missed his friend and how much the place had changed without him there. But then he said this line, some birds just can't be caged. Their feathers are just too bright. That's you. So if you're hearing this and you've been in a cage and imprisoned by your circumstances, your life, habits, patterns, environment, relationships, whatever it is, realize you're too big for that. And it might take climbing through a river of shit for you to find your freedom. But the journey is worth it. Don't let anything stop you. Keep pushing.
Life breaks everyone, and some are stronger in the places that broke.
We are going to go through trauma, but trauma is an opportunity to change and to reorganize the elements that made up your life. When a person's mind is traumatized, it's like the story that they were telling themselves has ceased to be persuasive, right? And when a story stops being persuasive, it is disorienting, and that, I think, is what trauma is. The period between when your old story breaks apart because of this last straw on the camel's back thing. I mean, we're gonna continue to tell ourselves the old stories until it's so glaringly contradictory that it doesn't hold up. So trauma is the period between when that breaks down and when you, from the pieces of the old, build something new. And we'll never glorify the trauma itself, but recognize that in that period, you have a very unique opportunity that will only come along a handful of times in your life to reorganize the story that you tell about yourself.
You perceive those things. I've looked at every experience that I've had, negative and positive, and taken that as a positive. You know, if I wouldn't change anything because I think it would alter some of the other things that happened. You know, so when I look back, I can't say that I've had any bad things happen. Sure, I mean, you don't want bad things to happen, but you deal with bad things. You can't have good or without bad.
It's like the masterpiece is enjoying your life to the utmost and having the most success with your family, with your friends, the most relationship success, the most harmony with the people that you come in contact with. But that doesn't seem to be rewarded the same way in our world as like someone who's got some baller house and a fucking helicopter picks him up and he's got golden underwear and.
But that fades, right?
Yeah, it does, but
they can have that helicopter, and I guarantee you that it fades and they want something new. There's something new that you're desiring past that.
Like if you're born into like some super wealthy multi-billionaire family and you've got a Ferrari when you're 16 and you know you drive around there, fly around everywhere in private jets and you live in a giant mansion, I just don't think that you can ever appreciate
definitely not
the difficulty of life.
There's a banality to being an entrepreneur. There is a willingness to suffer to being an entrepreneur, to being a great mom. Like whatever it is that you're trying to do, suffering is involved. And it literally, like being able to extend your break point is what it's about.
Shitty things are going to happen to you if they haven't already, and I'm sure they have. Many tragedies have befallen every person in this room. And what I want you guys to recognize right now is thank God. Because those are the things that weed out the sick and the weak. Those are the things that weed out the people who they don't have the fortitude to see it through. And I'm here to tell you that something is the ability to endure. My ability to handle suffering, my ability to keep going when something is boring, my ability to learn a new skill long after everybody else has gotten over it and gotten bored and they are no longer interested. All I can see is its utility. And in seeing its utility and becoming obsessed with what that thing is going to allow me to do, I endure. No matter how hard it gets, no matter how painful it is, if it lives in service of my goals, I do it. And that was the one thing nobody could see. That was the one thing when I was a kid nobody could understand. The questions you ask yourself will determine the course of your life. I had been asking myself, what do I need to do to get rich? And it left me really unhappy. So I changed the question, and I started asking, what would I do and love every day, even if I were failing? The second law of thermodynamics is that everything moves towards entropy. Life is chaos. It takes an inhuman amount of effort to bring order to that, to find success in the middle of that. So while I cannot promise you success, I can promise you failure. I cannot promise you happiness, but I can promise sadness. So if you know those are the guarantees and the other things are the things that you have to strive for, you better be striving in service of something that in and of itself is interesting to you.
The other side of your pain is something good.